Hey guys, it's Dionne here. Welcome back to the next edition of my monthly manuscript, where today I'm going to tell you about my process so far. And this is actually take number 5, but I don't know what's going on. It keeps dropping frames and cutting my video. So I'm going to try to do this before it shuts down on me again. So this has actually been a great week for plotting and getting my manuscript set and ready to go. And if you watched the first video, you know we did Voyage and Return, and I pulled drama. So I have to write a book this month that is in a drama genre, and my main character does a voyage and return, so sort of like the hero's journey. And that's what we're going to talk about next week, specifically is the hero's journey. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what is drama. So drama is my main genre this month, and it is a fiction genre. It's most strongly based on a character or a character and character set, and they are in conflict or at a very crucial moment in their lives. So one thing you'll notice about dramas is that dramas generally revolve around families, and the resolutions are often a little unhappy. They tend to be tragic, like a death, or painful, like a confrontation, very emotional. And I think this is going to be a challenge for me because I tend to write very sort of uplifting fiction, and I have to find a way to blend my style with creating something that might not have that happy ending. And I want to provide self-growth for my main character throughout this novel, but I also have to give her a very challenging ending. So is it possible to create that growth and that emotional tie and still set her on her way in a way that is satisfying but also painful? And I think that's going to be really interesting to play with, and I'm really excited for it. So dramas, they focus on very emotional things. You've got abuse, alcoholism, drug addictions, cheating, infidelity, racism, religion, maybe someone's sexuality, poverty, class structure, corruption, things of that nature. And the fun thing about dramas is that they often mesh really, really well with other genres. So drama is an umbrella, and then we have a lot of little subgenres that we can play with within the creation of this. So I am super excited to explore. Some dramas, for example, might be like The Fault in Our Stars, where the character dies, or My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult, or Heinrich Ibsen's A Doll's House. Of course, you've got other classics like Oedipus Rex. And we could go down the list of Shakespeare. We could go down the list of a lot of classics like Tennessee Williams, Arthur Miller. So where does one even go about doing this? And so I think the challenge for me, because it is a little bit out of my typical style, is still giving it my flavor, my author brand of sort of a quirky character who is going through the motions and coming to the end of the book with that resolution. And I like to tie things up, and I kind of feel like with the drama, I need to leave it a little bit more loose. So I do have an idea for how to close my book down, and I'm really excited about it. So what I did first was I created some notebooks for myself a little while ago, and these are going to be up for sale pretty soon. I'm experimenting with doing them as a printable PDF or doing them as like a downloadable Canva file that you can just put onto your own computer. But I created a character development workbook. This is 21 pages long, and it just totally explores every ounce of your character. And as you can see, mine's blank because after I got finished with my novel plotting workbook, I realized that I already had a really good connection to my main character, Genevieve, and I didn't need to go very deeply into developing her character structure. So I decided to write a book called Baker's Dozen, and it's a drama, and my main character, John, she gets called Genevieve when she's in Paris, but Genevieve does do a great voyage, and then she returns to her hometown. The book is going to be set in Wilmington, North Carolina, because I wanted to do a southern town with southern characters. I felt like this southern prim and proper and the idea of the Southern Belle was really important to creating some of the conflict with Genevieve and her family. And I'm very familiar with Wilmington. I lived there for a good number of years, and I feel like it's progressive, but still has a lot of fun options in there. So that is going to be my setting, and so I didn't feel like I needed to dive too deep into the setting either, because I already had a good feeling for how it is. So if I'm on a rush project like this where I'm trying to write a manuscript in a month, I'm going to rely on pieces that I'm already extremely familiar with. If I'm writing a longer novel, then I might dive deeper into pushing and researching outside of my comfort zone. And some genres will require me to do this, so thankfully they did not come this month. So my book is going to be called Baker's Dozen, and my basic starting quick synopsis is a cafe owner finds her business owner has embezzled their money, split from the company. Her business is now bankrupt. Her parents refuse to help because they don't like her business partner. She can then either choose to inject her savings or close her business. She decides to claim the bankruptcy and spend her savings traveling, and her goal is to travel and learn 13 different dishes, so that ties into the Baker's Dozen. So while she's traveling to learn these dishes that she hopes to bring back into her new bakery, she's also learning a lot about herself and having a lot of challenges along the way. There's going to be scenes where people that she meets challenge her over why she only decided to go to Europe instead of exploring other countries, and exploring sort of some of the misconceptions that we hold about different countries around the world, and why a lot of people choose primarily to consider Europe as a safe place and travel through there. And it's going to explore a lot of personal growth, self-development, things that she has to learn for herself that nobody else can teach her. So it's going to be really exciting. There's a lot of growth, and this is kind of in my main conflict. My main conflict here on my hero's journey is all about personal growth and recognizing her own strength and breaking the boundaries that she places on her own life. So the conflict that's driving my character to do so is breaking these cognitive and behavioral patterns that have been pushed onto her through family, toxic friendships, and relationships. So there are some twists in regards to her business partner, and one of the twists comes out very quickly in chapter 4 during a flashback, and there's going to be what I believe to be a fun resolution, and yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be challenging to not get too kitschy or whimsical, to not fall down the path of Eat, Pray, Love, because I'm not a fan of Eat, Pray, Love at all. And someone that I was already talking to about this was like, oh, so it's kind of like a longer Eat, Pray, Love, but it's not. And it's really important to me to not make it that way at all, because I kind of felt like Eat, Pray, Love sort of bastardized culture in a little bit and only brought it forward from a place of traveling privilege and really sort of only like scraping the surface of these cultures. So with this being heavily incorporating travel into it, it's really important for me that accurate representation is there and that we explore the different parts of these places. So in my worksheets, it goes all the way from creating to figuring out the resolution, figuring out your plot thoughts by exploring the challenge and the lessons of your character, birthing the character. So Genevieve, she's a little bit taller. She's 5'9". She's chubby, carries her weight in her hips, and a perfectly round stomach. Good hair, lush and full, green eyes, long fingers, big ears. So all of those pieces come into play in different parts of the novel. She's from a medium-sized southern town in Wilmington, big family, who always kind of cause her problems. She likes vinyl, 70s music, road trips, camping, sweets, she is a baker, and dogs. And she hates cats, orange, black licorice, liquor, and alcohol. Unique trait, she has an addictive laugh. She's optimistic somehow despite constantly being beaten down. And she has a photographic memory. And her relationship is, of course, she's the main character. My setting is Wilmington, North Carolina. That was really easy for me because I lived there for a little while. And so I didn't have to go too deep into the world dive of this building notebook because I'm creating a whole new race or inhabitants or politics, and there's no magic. This doesn't really center around holidays, and technology and medicine isn't really super important because it's nothing special. So I got away with a lot, not having to do too much of a build. So I got to explore my major points, climaxes, and resolutions. We look at each of these. So we break down the climax in this workbook. We break down the closure summary. We break down the overall emotional state of the book, the overall emotional state of my main character. And then the workbook does something that I love, which is the basic outline. So it goes for Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3, where this sheet you give a general of the act, and then the point is to write a one sentence for each of the chapters in that act and who is in that character. So it's kind of builds a little bit off of the snowflake method, where that process is if you write one sentence for each of your chapters and then you take that sentence and break it into paragraphs, a very basic chain of action for that chapter, and then you flesh that out, then you have your whole piece written. And so that's kind of how we start this. And so this is how I get to write so quick, because I already know the outline and I plug it into my computer. Normally I have a really strong process of going 7 by 7 by 7 for a 21 chapter book, 7 chapters per act, and I follow the Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 with a conflict and resolution in each act that drives forward until all 3 of those fit into a larger climax and resolution. My process is very methodical, and I do have this all in a workbook, which, depending on feedback, I might make it available. If you want it, let me know in the comment section. And BT dubs, subscribe and leave me a comment, because I love knowing what you like. And today's video is a little dry. Last day of an 8-day migraine and just plugging through, a little bit tired, not too energetic, fighting with the light because my lighting kit still hasn't come, my hair's still not done, failing at adulting. But my book is going along, and it is plotted, and it is planned, and my first 3 chapters are written. And so, back to my outline. Act 2 ended up being 15 chapters to get it done, because she travels a lot in Act 2, and then I thought, oh my god, this is going to be so long. Like, if I write a typical, 4,500 word chapter, right there. I mean, this is a whole book just in Act 2, and then if I put in Act 1 and Act 3 in there, it's going to be so long. But this is where we get in that mindset of this is what people have told me how to write, and this is how people have told me that I should be writing, and you got to break that. So I'm breaking that in this book. So already the first book of the project, I'm breaking my process, I'm breaking my flow for typical chapter counts, word counts, scene counts, and that's really great because I'm not sure I would have done that if I hadn't broken through here. So at the end, by the time I was done outlining my 3 acts, I broke a little bit, okay? I didn't break it all. I got 31 chapters, and I want to shoot for around 71 to 80,000 words. And I know some of you are going, that's a 9,000 word difference. That is huge. But what I'm assuming is I'm going to do 31 chapters at 2,500 words each, average, and then that will give me the 80,000. But in the event that some of these chapters end up needing to be shorter, because it is contemporary, it is going to be a contemporary drama where we can get away with shorter chapters, shorter viewpoints, one scene per chapter. I don't have to break down like 3 scenes per chapter. Then 2.5 words, 31 chapters, 80K is actually pretty standard, pretty good. So I'm excited. Normally after I did my one sentence, what I would then do is go into my workbook and do what's called a Save the Cat beat sheet. And those look like this. And this kind of outlines, again, that's 3 act, 7 chapter structure, where it's you introduce the protagonist in their normal life, you introduce your novel's theme in chapter 2, set up the story, protagonist makes first decision, debate needed to make a choice, plot point number 1. But because I've expanded this so much, I didn't do it. Broke another boundary for what I normally do to write. So that is basically where we're at so far. So, because I did have an 8-day migraine, I did not write as much as I wanted to. I am only at around, let me look. As of this morning, I am through halfway through chapter 3, yeah, and I'm at 5,195 words. And I will talk to you next video about how I track my words and show you the spreadsheet that I use to track what I write each day, so I know how much is left, how much I have to average in case there's a day where I just don't want to write. I know that I only have to write a set amount to meet that daily goal and keep pushing my novel forward. So I have an Excel spreadsheet that I created that automates everything for me, and I use this on every single novel that I write. And it's also fun to go back and look and see what days I did really good and explore why I did really good that day. So that is an introduction to the novel I'm writing this month, The Baker's Dozen, with Genevieve as she travels to learn how to cook new recipes. It's an introduction to my novel plotting workbook, character development workbook, and drama as a genre. So we will talk about Voyage and Return in my next video, because that is what I have to follow. Even though we kind of talked about it here, I want to go a little bit more in depth into the hero's journey and how to follow the hero's journey, and how understanding these plot themes will help you write a better book when you understand the structure of how they have to go. So that's in the next video. So leave any questions you have for me below. Please don't forget to comment, subscribe, like the video. These all do great things for helping me stay in the YouTube algorithm, get noticed, and help my little channel grow to be something really fun and great. So I really appreciate everyone who's already stopped by, checked us out last week, and is here again for this week. And maybe by next week my hair will finally be done. I'll look like an adult. At least I made my bed today. I always make fun of people who do YouTube videos in their room and it's messy and they don't make their bed, and I made my bed, but you can only see my sloppy pillow. So anyway, next week we'll get into that Voyage and Return, and next week I'm unveiling my Patreon subscription and the monthly bonuses and benefits for being a Patreon subscriber. So I will see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with me today and joining the journey on my monthly manuscript. Bye guys!